Good morning, No Man's Sky travelers and interlopers. Welcome to episode 18 of NMS's Life, where No Man's Sky is more than a game, it's life. I'm Dylan, and with me as always is my friend and fellow host, DG Squared. Good morning, DG.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all?
As we all know, Hello Games will be releasing, or actually already has released, another free update called The Abyss. Now, details have not really been revealed. Other than that, it'll focus on the eerier elements of No Man's Sky associated with this month's theme, which I think is fair to assume that means Halloween. For a lot of us, The Abyss is something that we've not yet heard of in the NMS universe. But with us today is a No Man's Sky traveler who is heavily involved with unraveling the lore behind No Man's Sky. Please welcome to the show, Codver Prime. Cod, thanks for joining us today, my dude.
Oh, real pleasure, Dylan and DG. Thank you so much for having me on. Delighted to be here.
So we're ecstatic to have you here. Nobody is more excited than myself to get a chance to speak with a fellow scientist in the city. And as Dylan said, the lore that you follow on your channel is that's what keeps the game driving sometimes. A lot of people have forgotten about the lore, but not you. And it reminds us all what a great game and how many awesome little storylines are within it.
Oh, yeah.
They've just crafted a marvelous fabric of interrelated stories. And what's been compelling to me about it is as the updates have unfolded, they keep bringing in things that they left before and developing it in a new way. So that makes me hopeful that as we go forward on this long journey that they're taking us on, we're just going to, I think, have our minds blown by how they weave everything back together and invite us in to craft the story.
Yeah, and the lore in No Man's Sky, like especially before Atlas Rises, before we got the Artemis storyline and stuff like that, it can be hard to follow sometimes and kind of cryptic at times. And I know that you dedicate your stream and a lot of your posts, like in the Amino and stuff like that, to not just diving into it and enjoying it yourself with other people, but you help people understand the lore and stuff. Also, with this update that's being released, the Abyss isn't all that unfamiliar in the NMS lore, apparently, based on some of your posts that you've had in the Amino. Can you shed some light on that? Maybe when and where you found reference to the Abyss?
Sure thing. There's an awesome crew of fellow travelers, the Deep Thought Collective, who sprang out of the NMS Portal subreddit back in the day.
Okay.
And who currently have a Discord channel where they're more active now. The subreddit's gone kind of quiet, but the Discord channel is active. And on there are folks on the PC side who do the data mining work. And one of the things they've been most effective with is getting the text files out and then kind of where to go to find these really intriguing things. So I learned that there was new lore. When Atlas Rises dropped, I learned that they had put new stories in the operation centers and the manufacturing buildings for each of the three races, for the Korvax, for the Gek, and for the Viking. And as much as it's cool to kind of have the data mining insight, when I wanted to know where things were and then go find them myself rather than read them, the spoilers kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's still that sense of discovery. So I was back in June, particularly doing some streaming as I was on a permadeath journey from the edge of the Hilbert to the center. I would stop and check out Korvax systems and particularly check out these operation centers and manufacturing facilities. And there I came upon this really remarkable story of a group of Korvax discovering a signal deep in the ocean on this planet that they were on. And it has signatures that are similar to the Atlas, which really obviously kind of caught my attention.
Yeah.
And then you have options about, what you can learn more about. And when you select to learn more about, and it's named the Abyss in this, they name it up front. And you can learn more about the Abyss. So when you choose that, it then relates to you that when the Korvax encountered this entity, they began to change their behavior and essentially be taken over by the Abyss, and that the Abyss had a particular energy signature that, while it was similar to the Atlas, had a musical quality and had the number 16 showing up in its frequency.
Oh, wow.
And the idea there to me, when we were in the midst of Atlas Rises and the Artemis story and the 16, and obviously we should have said up front, right? Huge spoilers if you're new to the game.
Yeah.
Probably play for a while and then come back to this episode. But so I don't intend to hold back on the spoiler front. But when the Atlas is going through its crisis in Atlas Rises, and we learn that there's only 16 seconds of Atlas time before it all crashes down. And we don't know how long that is in the NMS universe. We don't really know what's actually going on with the Atlas. We're told things from certain people's perspective and entities' perspective in the way that No Man's Sky, that we experience the lore and the story. Mm-hmm. But we should take nothing at face value that we hear. And so maybe there is a conflict going on. Maybe someone's trying to manipulate the Atlas and the universe. And that 16 is a manifestation of that. So this connection of 16, which figures so prominently in all the Atlas Rises stuff, and then 16 being the signature of the Abyss, I'm really interested to see where this goes as they introduce the Abyss as an actual character or entity in the game. And I've had in the back of my mind for a long time some of the pre-release interviews that Sean Murray did, and he dropped a number of times, maybe 3, that there's a malevolent force in the universe, and he always says we haven't shown it yet, and when we're ready, we will, and we'll talk about it. Mm. And they never showed it, right? It's never come into the game, and it wasn't the Sentinels, because they'd shown the Sentinels by the time he was doing these interviews, and we knew what they were. It wasn't the Atlas; it was something else.
Right.
I'm wondering if this is it. If the Abyss is the enemy, that the malevolent force that he said drives combat on the ground at one point. Though this was pre-release, so everything can change.
Right.
But I'm wondering if we're getting a real antagonist in the Abyss that is going to make the game more challenging, more dangerous, and maybe more mysterious, as we have to figure out what's really going on and who to trust.
Well, based on those findings, based on what you found, what do you expect from something like the Abyss? Like, do you think it will be a certain area? Do you think it's going to be like you say, a conflicting force against the Atlas or against the Traveler, against ourselves?
I'm definitely expecting a force that is going to come against the Travelers and perhaps the Atlas as well. And I think it clearly is going to be water-based. So I'd be shocked if we don't get a submersible exocraft, and if there isn't new stuff underwater, and that's where we'll encounter the Abyss, however it's going to manifest.
Yeah.
And at some one of the things at some point, I think everything in the No Man's Sky universe is going to go to hell. The Gek Viking War will finally break out, and there'll be factions and all that. And I wonder if this is a step in that direction, and the Abyss is going to kind of precipitate some of this, because goodness knows they've been pointing at a conflict, a broader conflict across the galaxy since the beginning, and we don't have it yet. We've seen the capital ships in combat in early game footage. We don't have that yet. That's got to be coming.
Yeah.
And I suspect we're one step closer to that now than we were before the Abyss dropped.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead, Deej. Oh, I may have lost DG.
This is the big one. Who knows? If at the very least, definitely more underwater adventures.
For sure, yeah. And that's certainly an area where they have the biggest canvas to develop, because we haven't spent much time down there. So they really, all new buildings, all new creatures. So they could do all kinds of stuff.
You can have a whole new world.
Yeah, it essentially would be a whole new world. Essentially, it would be. Yeah.
They've done such a good job at making oceans with this update with Next. I mean, there's certain planets you go to that are like just nothing but ocean, it seems. So they've done a really good job, and I think, like you say, a little submarine or something to help navigate through it all is just going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. the fact that they were dedicated about building underwater bases and making that possible. It seemed like a stepping stone to really developing the oceans to be a much more significant space for us to play in, which is awesome.
Oh yeah. So with all the things you found, like lore wise, and I mean, you've noticed the Abyss long before the update announcement. Is there anything else that they did announce that there is going to be another big update? They said there will be 2, and this is one of 2. Have you found anything that's kind of tickled your brain in a way that you think, oh, maybe this will be involved in the next update?
The thing that I spent most of my time researching and playing with is the haze zone. This area around the galaxy center, this mysterious gaseous area that's about 6,000 light years long, that we can't access, we can't get into, except the one exception to that is you can play version 1.0, the PS4 disc release, and then upgrade from that, and you can get in there. It's kind of all complicated how this works, but we can unpack that if we need to. But that region of the galaxy, of every galaxy, is the central mystery of the game. It's even bigger, I think, than Portals. And it's still there. And at some point, and I'm guessing it's when they really feel like we're ready to call this game complete, or at least they've developed as fully as they can, we're going to do something with that damn region of space. I've cooked up every way I can think of to get in there, and have had no success. I have one last kind of a long shot card to play, that's why I'm going off into the 6th galaxy to do some experiments out there and see if there might be one thing left from the lore. But otherwise, so far as that region of space goes, we're out of ideas about how to get in there. And the other thing that I'm wondering about is, are they leading us towards a place where the whole game itself is going to be reset in a way that allows us to really have truly one universe / galaxy, and they're going to bring all of our different playing groups together. That's like there'll be some big denouement to the story, and the Atlas is reset, or we rescue the Atlas, revitalize the Atlas, and we get a new universe to play in, and it's Xbox, PC, and PS4 all together. If they were able to pull that off, that would be amazing.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And they've laid out a story for us from the beginning of we're in this simulated universe,
right?
And it needs to be reset. It's incomplete, and it needs some kind of something needs to happen to make it what it should be or can be, or at least so that we're in it freely rather than imprisoned in it. And the stories, I'm pretty confident that they're laying out a path to take us to that place.
I would tend to agree, absolutely. Each update, they've released little tidbits more of the lore and story and content that go along with what we've all led to believe of what the game is and should be. And individuals like yourself who've painstakingly found the little tidbits, you guys lead the way, in what some of the lore and all that stuff that's just now really being figured out. And this stuff has been in since Atlas Rises. The new stuff that you've discovered is just a matter of time before we actually find it. There could even be more, and we're not even aware of yet. We just haven't even found. And that's the beautiful thing, is it's so random. When you go to these outposts and whatnot, you never even know if you're going to get the next piece. It could be something completely different, or it could be something you've seen before.
That's right.
So you just got to go and you got to check them out.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I happened to, so because I wanted to take a save out past the Euclid, I forked my saves. I have two main saves, one still in Euclid and now one going off on this journey. And so I played the last community event 2 times. And was really surprised that, kind of like a choose your own adventure book, which is one of the main inspirations for No Man's Sky, for those of us of a certain generation who remember them and love them. There were 2 very different outcomes to the community event based on the choices that I was making. And in one, at the end of it, you get a video feed of the traveler that Polo's been trying to rescue. And they go into the portal, and then another traveler follows behind them, and the whole portal scene distorts and goes white. And then only the traveler who we were trying to rescue doesn't come back out. Only the traveler who followed them. And that was really intriguing to me.
I didn't know that. I didn't know they had a couple different outcomes.
Yeah, and then the other one, you go to a traveler grave, and it's Artemis. It's Artemis's grave. So we've found Artemis in another way, a second time, and like that's pretty deep, right?
That's chilling.
There's something there that they're playing with.
That's chilling.
I think the more that we share our experiences with one another, the more we'll learn, because there's they've put more than any one of us can learn about or experience. That's why communities like the Cafe and like the Deep Thought Collective Discord are so important, so that we can share knowledge and learn and figure this out together.
Absolutely.
It certainly seems like they've gone multi-dimensional. Finding Artemis in different locations definitely sounds like multiple universe, multi-dimensional universe travel. That Polo's always fun to interact with. I always love Netta and Polo and the Space Anomalies. I never give up a chance to go and visit those guys, I tell you. And now there's even a better reason, right? We got Quicksilver, so we can spend the money there. Buy some stuff, some swag.
Yeah. You were asking me, Dylan, earlier about things to expect as a kind of the biggest, and this just occurred to me, the biggest one that has been there since the beginning and that they've pointed towards and developed is the world of glass.
Yeah.
And the beings who are running it.
Oh, now you're talking old school. Old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they revisited the world of glass in the Atlas Rises lore.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the Abyss. We don't know, but at some point those people are going to show up and they're going to scare the shit out of us.
Yeah. I wonder if the world of glass is underwater. Maybe that's an underwater base or something. And it's I don't know.
Yeah. That's a good call, Dylan. That would make a lot of, that would fit.
For those that are unfamiliar, because the world of glass, this one gets me going, because that's some old school lore.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that for those that don't know?
Sure. So the abandoned buildings from the get-go had a number of stories that you would learn time after, if you went, as you visited them repeatedly. And the second to last block of stories is the traveler realizing that there's something wrong with the universe that they're in and trying to go deep and to discover what's the reality. And they have this really creepy, spooky image. I'm going to pull some of it from memory about there's a world of glass that is razor sharp, and the glass is thirsty, and you won't remember that I warned you, and you'll be cut and it'll be too late as the life drains out of you. I butchered it a little bit, but that's the essence of the story.
It still scares the shit out of me.
And then the traveler also talks about these aliens. He doesn't say who they are, describe who they are, but they take the glass and they grind it down to these beads that they then weave into their skin. And it gives them this intelligence that they shouldn't have, and they speak languages that they shouldn't know. And also super creepy. And there are a couple of other things about the traveler being lost in the world of glass and trying to understand reality, and that it's all kind of shattering. It was one of those things that when I read it, I think when all of us read the first time, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Because it's horror, right? It's straight up horror.
Dude, it was creepy as you know what. It was definitely creepy. Yeah, that story arc was fantastic. I love that. The shards. I think some of the exotic planets with the shards, or the rock that's shattered, hanging in the sky. I think that may be part of some of that lore, which just hasn't been introduced or at least touched upon yet. And each update, they give us just a little bit more. I love that stuff.
So when they dropped next, the base archive, the base computer archive story, if I'm remembering right, when it starts sending you off the base to read the stories, the traveler talks about getting caught in the world of glass, and then in the midst of that, describes the family of glass, which is the first time that we'd heard that particular phrase. The traveler, at the end of that story, the traveler escapes the world of glass with the sentinel that had befriended him, Laylaps, if you remember Laylaps. It's kind of left as a hanging. What's next is left hanging, but in some way, whether it's this update or the next big one, the world of glass is coming, and it's going to be crazy when it does. When it's going to break into our game universe.
I think so. Yeah,
and I'm sure throw everything to the wind.
Yeah, that'll be a big one.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for scaring the shit out of all of us. Yeah,
it's somewhat chaotic in a sense, I would think. Scattering the travelers and the community, and of course the community will have to rally and fight back or defend in some way. The quote monarch, as stated in the lore. One of the other things I wanted to ask you today. Sorry if I'm interrupting you here, Dylan, but one of the research projects that you've worked on in the past, you've done some black hole research, which is cutting edge. And I hear there's an awful lot of misunderstanding amongst the community sometimes. I hear chats or questions being asked. And a lot of people just don't really know exactly what's happened to the black holes in Next.
Yeah.
There's been a change, a big change,
a huge change. Yeah, and it's I think part of the confusion is from the fact that it was glitchy when Next first launched. It wasn't working the way it seems that Hello Games intended. So that I think we're still kind of sussing out what did they intend and what was a programming glitch. So the biggest change about black holes, and this has been consistent with Next, is that they take you to one particular star system. They no longer function as a random destination generator. So the whole thing that the most excellent Pahafu, who wrote the Pilgrim Star app and the one who really discovered or understood the galactic coordinate system, built into that app a black hole roulette feature where you could kind of calculate if I went, how close would black holes get me to, say, the amino hub or the galactic hub.
Using the black hole ring that he used in his app.
Exactly. So that no longer functions because a black hole is only going to take you to one star system. It can still help you, but you're not going to be able to use the same black hole over and over again by saving and restoring. Yeah. It's only going to take you to one star system.
Yeah, and you don't know until you get there and put down some coordinates to find out where exactly it spits you out.
Where you've ended up, right. Exactly. So that's a huge change. So the other thing that started to happen was black holes started to not work. They started, you'd fly into them with your ship, and then the sound would change a little bit, get a little crackly, and you would just pass through the black hole and stay in the same star system. And that was happening in a number of places, but it was really happening around the core. In the Deep Thought Collective, folks were checking out black holes, and all of them were not working.
As if they're corrupted.
Yeah, as if they were corrupted. And so that's really intrigued me, and I started to check it out more. And I found some were working and some weren't. And the pattern was not at all clear. And then they did an update that corrected it. And most of them started working again. But I did find there was a band of black holes that still didn't work, which were about anywhere from 6 to 14,000 light years from the center. And that's not consistent, because now as I've been doing black hole jumping to get from the edge to the core of each galaxy, in some galaxies they work all the way up to the core, and in some galaxies they don't. So now we're kind of back in this, is this what they intend? Is it glitchy and it's not working the way they intend? I don't think we know. But for gameplay purposes, if you're jumping a galaxy, black holes are now the way to go, because they've disabled portals as a way to jump from the edge of the galaxy to the core.
As it was in the past.
As it was in the past.
That was always the fastest way through.
Correct.
Although it's a little bit different now. Does it still take you forward every time, or is it more random where you go forward, backward, cross galaxy?
It still always takes you forward, closer to the center, about 6,000.
Okay, so that not
that
much
part
has
hasn't
changed in that. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So it's still the way to get across a galaxy the quickest. And for us old schoolers, it's the only way, right? It's the way it always should have been. Portals were cheap. As cool as it was to cross a galaxy in minutes, this is how it should be, because this is what gives you a sense of the scope of the game.
Yeah, you want to
not just that, but
it
also damages your technology.
It does. So there's one more place where there are some significant changes. If you have tech in your ship's tech slots, those are protected from the black hole damage. So you can get a decent, if you get a explorer or an exotic ship and you keep the regular slots clear and you put your hyperdrive upgrades in the tech slots, you can keep jumping, 14,000 or so light years and not have to continually repair your ship, which is a plus.
I remember the days carrying all the reasons.
Yes.
Oh, pain in the ass.
Quick repair every jump, and away we go.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So there's this other thing that I've heard, and it's not been true for me, which is the new exosuit upgrade, Starseed, that they introduced alongside the Remembrance upgrade, which we got with Atlas Rises.
Right.
Yeah.
People are saying that it protects your tech from black hole jumps.
Really?
And I've heard that. I've heard that multiple times, and
I'm going to have to test that.
Yeah, I've seen no evidence of it, and it doesn't work that way for me.
Yeah.
I know it does
suit?
increase your. Well, it does increase your suit. What do they call it? The backup shields. When your shields go down and you got your backup life source or life protection, it does increase that along with the Atlas Stone.
Oh wow!
Right.
So you get a couple extra health points there on your board, but I'm definitely gonna have to. Can you install it on your ship? Is that even possible?
No, it's an exosuit tech, so no.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what to make of that, and if there's a purpose for that yet, kind of like there was for the Remembrance with the Remembrance terminals, that hasn't shown up in the game yet that I know of.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty wild. And I noticed Beater Tech in chat is saying that he's tried it and it's worked. It has worked for him.
Okay, so it's possible that again, the complexity of this game, it might be it's just not working for me, because my save is peculiar
the thing, right?
or whatever.
Yeah,
we don't know. That's what makes this mystery hunting so exasperating sometimes. Is what's a glitch and what do they intend?
Yeah, exactly.
And the folks in the DTC, the Deep Thought Collective, have been just really expert at sussing things out, and we don't have any puzzles that are out there to solve, share, and explore. It seems like it, but then they never quite come together. Folks have looked at monoliths and monolith sequencing. Mr. Unnoticed, who's one of the mods and one of the lead researchers, had this black hole manipulation going on for a while, where every so often you go towards a black hole and there's this white coming out of the center. Kind of discolored it. So he has a technique where he can make it like all white and then jump through. And he
remember that.
Yeah, he noticed there was a pattern to where he would end up. But since they've made black holes fixed, now that's kind of dried up.
Right.
That's pretty awesome, though.
and here's something that we have. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you can do. It is cool. And I was never skilled enough with my hand-eye coordination to do it. I'm not that level of a gamer. I'm a puzzle solver, not a shooter. But the other thing we haven't talked about is, where does Waking Titan fit in all this?
Yeah.
And I was pretty surprised when they sent out the survey to us. Was it last week, asking us what we'd like to see in the game?
Right.
2 weeks ago, I think.
Was it 2 weeks?
Couple
so
weeks.
one of the questions was, would you like another ARG? And that blew me away. Really? You guys aren't done with the ARG? Because the way that Waking Titan Season 2 wound down, I thought, okay, they're leaving this behind. So I wonder, because there was so much of the puzzle solving and the kind of community investigations that the Waking Titan evoked, that I assumed was going to come into the game, but hasn't yet.
Yeah.
Is it coming? Would they do another ARG for those of us who are looking for that kind of stuff? I really wonder.
I think they will.
I'd love it.
Yeah, I was shocked they asked. And there was an interview on a podcast. I think the name of it was Galactic Explorers. with a guy who is here in Boston, as I am, who got to go to the Boston Live Drop.
Oh, nice.
And is it Ben? I'm trying to remember the guy from Allison Smith, who was tending Mr. Noodles. Anyway, he showed up at the Boston Live Drop for season 2, and they got to talk afterwards for a couple hours over hot dogs, which sounded awesome.
You talking about the dude with the vest and the glasses, the caretaker?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think we all saw that video.
I'd have a hot dog. I'd have a hot dog with that guy.
Totally. So he was sharing in the podcast. The traveler, the guy who took part in the live event, said that that he was saying that Hello Games was deeply involved in crafting the puzzle for Waking Titan. You know, so the whole puzzle thing is clearly something that they love, and it's underdeveloped, I think, in the game at this point. Yeah. So are they going to? Is that going to grow in the coming updates? Is it sitting in our computers now or in our consoles now with Abyss? I don't know. I'll be looking for that.
Yeah.
And I would love more of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about you guys, but I've got one thing on my mind, and it looks like 8.6 here has got the same thing in mind here. When the heck are we going to use those codes on the V4 passes?
Yes.
Yeah. There's got to be a time when that's going to be necessary or required, and I'm looking forward to that. And each time we get one of these updates, I hope that there's something out there for that, or they've inserted a portion of the game in there for us to use that. Mm-hmm. They've already done it for legacy players. Certain things are only available to legacy players now.
That's right.
Nip, and the carbon trays that you can construct. Only legacy players can build those now.
Here's another one.
Really kind of neat.
The Photonics core, if you got the limited edition, I think it was limited edition, right?
That's right.
That's a unique tech that only is available to those of us who were there from the beginning.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I have it in one of my saves, but none of the others. Definitely. And I miss it.
It's better than the S-Class upgrades for the Pulse Drive.
Oh, absolutely. I know. It just blows them all away if you have that thing installed. And then you put the S-Class upgrades in there. And
you got the fastest ship in the galaxy.
Well, I don't know about fast, but it was damn maneuverable. I tell you.
You put all those things together on an exotic, and it's insane how maneuverable the ship is. It's insane.
Yeah, they've got great maneuverability. Fighters too, also great maneuverability.
Yeah, they're pretty slick.
Haulers not so much, but they do improve, and you can see a difference and feel a difference when you put those upgrades on a hauler for sure. Absolutely. And an Explorer too.
Well, dude, we can talk lore, and I would actually like to talk more lore with you again in the future, so we'll have to have you on again.
I'd be delighted.
But I do want to thank you for joining us this morning and discussing
this was a blast.
What you found. I mean, if you guys aren't familiar with Codver Prime stream, you do it every Sunday, I believe, at 7 o'clock Eastern.
Yep, I made it 7:30 because getting the 2-year-old to sleep before 7 was getting to be a challenge. So I made it 7:30.
Give yourself a buffer zone, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So guys, tune into his stream. Seriously, I'll have that description in the comment section of the YouTube archive of this as well. Also, before we go, I wanted to do a shout out to a community member, a big community member. I'm sure everyone's aware of Cobra TV. I think it was 3 days ago. He was in a real horrific car accident. He and his wife. Apparently they're okay, but I've seen the pictures that he's put on his social media, and it looked like a real nasty one. So our hearts are with you, Cobra, and you and your wife.
Amen to that.
Yeah, we hope for a speedy recovery and getting back to doing what you do best, which is giving great content on video games and No Man's Sky as well.
Yeah. And Dylan, I just want to share with you that mentioning that 2-year-old, some of my sweetest No Man's Sky memories are when he was just born, watching you stream because I couldn't play because I had my hands full with him. So I'd be sitting there with him in my lap watching you.
Oh, that's awesome,
I have very
dude.
warm memories of that. So thank you for being who you are.
Oh, I'm
your
glad
Uncle Dylan.
I'm glad you shared that. Oh, I'm glad you shared that with me, man. No, I really am. Yeah, no, I've a lot of you guys have been there since day one of No Man's Sky, my streams, and I've been streaming the game since it was new, and I know, COD has been there since day one. DG has been there since day one. But that's awesome, dude. I'm glad you shared that with me.
Yes, I have to say, since that was when he was pre-verbal, right? Because language is, you be you be who you are.
Yeah.
But there are times that words may show up that I don't want him to learn, at least not yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched it with him for a little while, but that is a memory that is I will always carry.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I will too now that you shared it with me. That's great, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Before long, he'll be quoting Schwarzenegger quotes.
Yeah.
There you go. Absolutely.
You'll be saying, "Where did you learn that word from?"
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It was Uncle Dylan, Daddy.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Well, thanks again. We'll do this again because I think
definitely.
Especially
we've got more to talk about for sure.
Yeah, and to discuss lore, I don't know anyone who I know a lot of people that play the game since day one and stuff. The lore can be so cryptic and hard to understand sometimes, and you've got a great way of breaking it down. And I don't know anyone else who loves the lore, not just the game, but who loves the lore of the game as much as you do. So thanks again for sharing your thoughts and breaking down the abyss and all these other things that have been mentioned in the lore.
Well, thank you so much. Real pleasure.
So
Take care, guys.
Anyone listening live, thanks for showing up. There will be a live stream after. I'm going to dive into the abyss myself. If you're listening to the archive of this on YouTube, that is just because you're a wonderful person. So thanks again, guys, and enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Thank you, Codver, and thanks again, Nerd League. Take care, everyone.